Right, well, we welcome many new faces to World of Railways, and my next guest ticks this box perfectly. It's Duncan Howarth of Model Art Studios and more recently, Model Art Miniatures. So, Duncan, welcome to World of Railways. Thanks for sparing the time to join us today.
No
Tell
problem.
us all about your background in model making. How did this big adventure start out?
Well, it started out in 1964 when I was 4 years old, and my grandma used to nip down to the local co-op for a pension every Monday, and there were lots and lots of bagged Airfix kits on the wall on sort of pegboard the way they used to be. And I just happened to be looking at one, and she came across and said, "Would you like it?" And we took it home, and I had no idea. I just looked at it. I opened the bag, and I thought, "What am I going to do next?" And this old lady, who raised me, actually, she was 20 years old when the Titanic went down. She matriculated at age 12 before she went to work at 12, and she helped me build this model in about an hour and a half with no prior knowledge at all. And it was so sort of hit and miss that she trimmed all the little trim tabs off with a bread knife. We sat at the kitchen table. From that, I think the childhood was to do more with connecting with the older generation because I had an uncle who'd fought at El Alamein, another one who'd been on the Arctic convoys and all sorts of things. And connecting with my uncles was very important. And they actually took an active interest in what I was doing. And I think the first really big landmark with them was when Tamiya uh, reproduced the quad 25-pounder gun tractor kit in 135th when I was in early teens. And it was the very vehicle that my uncle Frank had driven during the war. So it was magical because you got to speak and 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 hear their anecdotes firsthand. And then he started to talk about other vehicles. And that's when I started to convert the vehicles using very rudimentary means, a lot of plastic sheet and things like that. And it was a magical journey for me, model making. By the time I was in late teens, when I left grammar school, I was fortunate enough to get a design apprenticeship at the co-op, at the head office in Manchester. And the first commission that I got while I was an apprentice, proper one after seeing whether I could draw and whether I could communicate, was to build a 1 to 50 scale model of the brand new cooperative bank headquarters in Manchester, in Bullion Street. And this was gigantic. This thing was like 8 feet long, and 4 feet wide, and nearly 5 feet tall. And I realized after having had it as a hobby for a very, very long time that it really was becoming a way of life. And we got a lot more commissions, internal commissions to build after the bank headquarters. We had to design the interior of shops and use the models as a way to set up visuals by taking photographs of the models. We used them to set up visuals that we would use to present to the client.
So this then led
Um,
into Model Art Studios then, and you set yourself up and started taking on these projects for various clients.
yeah, Model Art Studios has been, it was an on and off project to begin with for about 3 or 4 years because there were other things to do. There were other jobs coming in from other directions. But it really started to take off when I was involved with a company called PGC Demolition. And uh, their MD asked me to build a 12-foot long model of the Riverdance ferry, which was wrecked off Blackpool. And Pete, God rest his soul, got in touch with me and asked me to make this model. He said, the only problem is I only have 2.5 weeks before the presentation. So using a sort of almost like a plastic ribbon plank approach, We had to build this boat in 2.5 weeks, and thank goodness it's on the website if you get a chance to see it. We managed to light the interior and so on. It was a day and night project, but it was a lot of fun, and it was quite difficult.
Mm. So from this, you're now planning to introduce models for people to actually purchase via your new launch, which is Model Art Miniatures. Tell us a little bit about Model Art Miniatures. And I think you said you've done a lot of research on the marketplace for the various scales for model railways and also model boats that you also produce models of. Can you tell us also some of the interesting finds that you've discovered looking at it with fresh eyes, please?
Well, it has been fascinating in a number of different aspects. To start this from scratch, I mean, it's sort of, we're 6 months into the project, and in the 3 months preceding that 6 months, we did a lot of research, even such basic research as trawling eBay to see what was available in the market and what was, a lot of Googling of things to see what was needed. We also did a little bit of guerrilla exploration and marketing on Facebook. There are some fascinating pages on Facebook, particularly to do with the Clyde Puffers and the Steam Tug Challenge, which has a very illustrious career. When we looked at the original idea of making the Masters, we noticed that there's a lot of kits out there that are beautifully made but desperately unapproachable. Because if you open a box, it happens a lot with even Airfix and Tamiya. You're 12 years old, you open the box lid, and you're frightened to death. And you close the box lid, it goes in the loft until it goes on the car boot set. And a frightening statistic that they reckon that only 82% of model kits ever bought in the world are actually made. Now, Airfix have tried to tackle this in a fascinating way, which we've been involved with at several stages. They actually educate the public firsthand on a one-to-one basis, well, sort of bring and build ideas. And they make some great stuff, and they make young people make some great stuff. And we did a test of it where we had the 30 children in my son's class at primary school when he was 10. Each one built a Spitfire, an Airfix Spitfire, and the results were fascinating. And the best one made was by the least expected person. It was a young girl called Lily May, and she never showed up in class. She obviously had ADHD or something like that. It was undiagnosed, and she built this kit, and she was completely focused. And what I wanted to bring to Model Art Miniatures was a strong sense of preservation of the past and an approachability that, through no fault of their own, model kit manufacturers want detail, detail, detail. Now, our casting masters, if I might just show you this, that is the hull of the Clyde Puffer.
Right. Now, so you're looking at one piece. Is that resin then?
It will be resin. This is the plastic master. This is the styrene master. When you get that out of the box and you're 12 years old, or you're 80 years old and still relatively inexperienced, if you're making it with your grandson or whatever, you think, do you know what? I'm halfway there. And it's got all the detail. And when it comes out of the mold, they're all latex, basic latex molds, or anything that you could do at home on your own, actually. You're partway there. And the kits that, as time goes on, you can have more and more detail as your skills allow. And we're going to have instructional videos on our website and on YouTube and so on. And we wanted to make it inclusive. It's got to be, if this hobby is going to sustain itself and grow, people need to be not counting rivets. They need to be more friendly. They need to be more inclusive. It needs to be almost like being in a Beatles movie instead of a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. Well,
That's
he's
a
the only,
very good
the guy,
analogy.
yeah, he's the guy, only guy on the block that can kick everybody's butt, and I think that's fantastic, but it is very exclusive. And I have a 13-year-old son who is a very talented artist and animator, and his involvement, even at the research stage, was invaluable, because what you've seen is you've seen it firsthand from that generation's point of view. My wife teaches SEN children, and the way that the brain function actually changes over time, the more constructive, creative things they do.
So, Duncan, talk us through what we can expect to be featured in this new range. What sort of topics and subjects are you looking at?
Well, especially for model railways, there's an awful lot of movement now in the direction of building a canal basin and a canal network into your model train diorama. We want to expand that a little bit. We're actually going to build, I know it sounds bizarre and a little bit high flown, but we will be building a modular clipped together canal network.
Oh, right, okay.
With locks and all the accompanying buildings and all the mechanisms that if you wanted to, you'd be able to fill it with water and run it like a normal canal. We've even thought about propulsion. And if you want a canal barge, a model of a canal barge to move along the canal, along the water, you can actually do it with bicarbonate of soda, the way they used to do it in the 1920s, with little submarines and boats and things like that. So that's very much in the developmental stage. But I have to say, we're having so much fun with it. It's a lot of fun. We recently moved to the Potteries. We live in the north of Stoke-on-Trent. And it struck me meeting the people and seeing the fact that there used to be, over a 200-year period, they built nearly 3,000 pottery kilns in this area, and no two were the same. Because I've had people mention to me that, oh, well, that doesn't look like a particular one. I said, well, just have a look at the photographs. There are millions of the damn things. But what people also don't realize with pottery kilns and pottery factories, apart from Stoke-on-Trent, where there's this massive concentration feeding the empire as well as domestic use, they're all over the country, all over Europe, and all over North America. So the possibilities with them are endless, really. Beyond that, we'll be providing annexes, other factory components, and a brewery. So we obviously want to do a broad appeal. But that brings me to the crux of what we do is we want to make things that have a local appeal. For instance, we're going to build a windmill shortly from a place called Essington near Wolverhampton. So, but it is a port mill, so it's applicable to the rest of the country. But I want to do a lot of different and a lot of different products that pertain to a particular person's parts of the country. And so they have an identifying sort of ownership of the thing. I want the models, I want you to feel like you can buy our model even as the basis of something that you can convert and you can build upon the super detail as you go along. All the super detail and bits and pieces will be provided in the kit, but you build as much as you can when you can. And when your skills improve, or you're working with your granddad or your dad or your mum, they can impart some of their knowledge and their skills as well. So.
Well, Duncan, it's been fascinating to hear some of your thoughts, and obviously with fresh eyes coming into this this hobby that we've got, how you plan to develop that range going forward. So for those interested in Duncan's new range, check out his Facebook page, Model Art Miniatures, and look out for his website as well, Model Art Studios. Some fantastic model making that's available for everybody to see on there as well. Duncan, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.